Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tips with Toni's Topic Tuesdays, where I go live every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Hey, Kim. Thanks for tuning in. I always like to start by explaining who I am and why I do what I do. My name is Toni Marinucci, and I'm a registered dietitian, owner of Diet Tips with Toni Marinucci, MSRD LLC. I provide online nutrition counseling for those struggling with emotional eating and utilizing food kind of as a crutch and an outlet, and I teach them how to use food as a way to empower them, make them see the benefits of food rather fighting a relationship with it, and use it as fuel and they learn ways to manage their healthy eating strategies. And that's kind of what I specialize in with my individualized care. But I definitely do provide for other people as well through my live talks, right? So I like to do these live talks as a way to sift through all of that misinformation out there on the internet and provide you with some scientific, evidence-based, credible nutrition research, nutrition recommendations based off of my research and my expertise. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Hi. For those of you on Instagram, I apologize. I look at my Facebook camera because it helps me to I can download the videos and then put it on my YouTube page or my Tips with Toni page, www.tipswithtoni.com, where you can catch up on old videos that I've done. Last week, I talked about coconut oil. The week before that, I talked about, I think, soy. So all of these things that if you have questions about, there are resources out there, but I think that you'll find my videos very interesting because I kind of take all that information out there and simplify it for you in less than 30 minutes. And that's what I'm going to do for you today. Melissa, so excited I wasn't able to see you on Dr. Oz. Don't worry, Melissa, are we friends on Facebook? My sister tagged me in the video of me on Dr. Oz. So if we're not friends on Facebook, I think we are. Go to my Facebook page and you could take a look at that. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you did not subscribe to the Tips with Toni podcast, please do that. If you have not subscribed to the Gym Wits podcast, please do that. And if you like it, write a review. It helps people find us. Really, really thankful. Yay. Okay, good, Melissa. I'm glad. So one more update, and then we're going to get into tonight's topic, which is all about finding the best spread for your bread. But one last update. So I've been hosting this free balanced breakfast challenge. It's a 21-day challenge, and it's a little bit too late to join because you get like daily updates, and I've already had 2 out of the 3 webinars and workshops that are accompanied with it. But that's about to wrap up. There's another week or so of that. And then I want to offer another workshop. And right now, I've taken polls, I've asked people what they want, and it's a 50-50% split down the middle between some people wanting me to create a workshop and seminar around nutrition for performance and utilizing food as fuel and helping them to recover faster so they can perform better with whatever exercise regimen that they're in. And then there's another group of people that want me to do a challenge on how to slim down for summer. And I did think that would be kind of more ideal. I could always do the nutrition for performance workshop at another time, but considering, we would start June 1st and it would go into the summer, that's what I was leaning towards. But right now, it's a 50-50 split. So I do want to hear from you guys. I want to provide what you want, what you need. So let me know what you would prefer. Just write a comment. Just let me know if you would prefer, hello. Let me know if you would prefer a challenge or workshop or seminar about nutrition for performance and improving your workout, or if you would prefer something like, what would it be? Or like slimming down for summer and getting into a healthier bathing suit, feeling comfortable in a bathing suit. Okay, so let me know which one you would prefer. Thanks everyone for tuning in. All right, so as you guys know, I was on the Dr. Oz show. It aired this week, and the whole entire thing was all about Thank you guys. The whole entire thing was about butter, all about butter. And I mean, if you watch the show, it was Dr. Oz did a great job putting on different experts and kind of figuring out, kind of sifting through all that information. I wanted to go into greater detail about it, and I also know that not everybody saw the show, so I thought it would be a good topic, and you can hear my spin on it, because if you saw the show, you know that I made a case for avocado butter, and I'm going to give you guys the recipe at the end. So if you stick through for the whole 30 minutes or watch it live after, you're going to get the recipe for the avocado butter. But avocado butter you have to make, so there's definitely more convenient options that you can purchase, and I want to talk about that. All right, so we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about the debate about saturated fat, because that's pretty much why butter is no longer a recommended oil, I guess you could call it, or a condiment, I guess you could call it, or cooking. I don't know really what the proper term would be, but why people, let's talk about the debate about saturated fat. While you'll hear some registered dietitians say butter's fine and some registered dietitians say butter's not fine. So we're going to talk about the debate about saturated fat. We're going to identify some of these terms that you hear or you see when you go to the dairy aisle and you see all of the butter options that are completely like all over the place. You have grass-fed, you have clarified, you have pasture-raised, you have margarine, you have soft spreads, you have whipped butter. I mean, literally, like, it's kind of like the cereal aisle, if you think about it. Sometimes the butter aisle is overwhelming and confusing. So we're going to go over all of those different terms and what they mean. I'm going to explain how you could choose the best butter or best spread for your bread for you. Only for you, because you have to remember, this is for you. Everyone, I mean, I know I'm giving a big talk to a whole group of people, but at the end of the day, it's your body and your life, and you need to choose the best spread that's best for you. Everyone's an individual, so there's general recommendations, and then there's individualized care. And if you have any questions after this, you can send me an email, tipswithtoni@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to address that further. Hey! Okay. So let's get into it then. Regular butter used to be, no one ever thought twice about it. It was what was generally used, right? We would use regular butter. Now, the question is, why did butter get like a bad reputation? Well, it's because butter is mainly saturated fat. And there's an ongoing debate right now, very strong. There's like strong evidence saying that saturated fat, it can raise cholesterol in the body. Then there's other scientific evidence that's saying, maybe it's not saturated fat, but it's the type of saturated fat. Maybe the amount is more of a factor, or just dietary habits. If you listen to my last episode of the episode I did about coconut oil, I went into really great detail about, there was one doctor that had an awesome quote, and it's like, we have to stop in research singling out nutrients, whether saturated fat is good or bad, or, are carbs good or bad, or is protein good or bad, or is fruit good or bad. Like, we need to think about the people and their dietary habits over, like, what are you eating 80% of the time, most of your life? How have you been, do you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and lean proteins, or is your diet strictly just butter, fried food, and a whole ton of saturated fat? Like, is there a balance there? And I think that's what people really need to start focusing on. Now, I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives to each of these different spreads that you can use for your bread. So butter, yes, it's high in saturated fat. But one benefit about butter is, if you read the ingredients to butter, it's just cream and salt. If you get into all the other stuff that's in the dairy department, there's a whole lot of list of words you can't understand. Now, should you be using a ton of any of these oils, and those words that you can't understand, are they really making an impact on your health? I don't think so. But if you do want a clean product, then butter is going to be that for you. Now, although it's saturated fat, there's grass-fed butter, which we're starting to see might have a higher omega-3 content, which is a good polyunsaturated fat, which is good for our heart. So therefore, if you do a grass-fed butter, yes, it's still going to be 100 calories per tablespoon. Yes, it's still going to have 7 grams of saturated fat, but at least you're going to have some of more of those heart healthy omega-3 omega-3 unsaturated fats. And so there's that argument for the grass-fed butter. Now, whether it's organic or not, totally separate. So you want to make sure, if that's a personal preference, whether it's organic or not, that would mean that the feed that the animals are getting is also organic. But the grass-fed is meaning that they're able to kind of graze. If they're 100% grass-fed, that means that despite any of the weather conditions, they're able to graze. Pasture raised means that they're mostly grass-fed, but if the weather's not great, they might put them inside for a little bit. They might supplement their diet in a little bit, but for the most part, they're grass-fed. And to be honest, most cows, their general lifespan is like 10 to 14 years. They are grass-fed most of the time. It's the end of their life that then they're put in those cages and usually given like more of a grain-based diet. And that's where the omega-3s aren't going to be as high. And that's when, it goes into, do you care about how the animal's been treated and how it's raised, but butter really should not be like a make or break in your diet. Regardless of any of these spreads that you choose, it should be a 1 to 2 teaspoons, up to, I think I talked about it last time, like, you maybe have like 5 teaspoons of fat throughout the day. If 1 teaspoon's butter, then the other teaspoons could be olive oil, and the other teaspoon could be peanut butter, and the other teaspoon could be avocado butter. Like, it shouldn't, regardless of what you're choosing, it shouldn't be a lot of your food, and it shouldn't be impacting your diet that much. I don't know if I'm making sense. If I'm not making sense, let me know. Thanks everyone for tuning in. All right. So obviously we know another positive benefit to butter is it's very flavorful. So if you enjoy the flavor of butter and you're able to stick to the proper portion of it, then go right ahead. I will warn you, there's the clarified butter. You probably heard ghee. The ghee butter is clarified. That, I think the benefit to that is it's clarified, meaning it's like super concentrated. So it's barely like, it's lactose free. It's not dairy free though. So if you have a dairy allergy, it's not safe to have, but it is lactose free. But because it's concentrated, it has even more saturated fat and more calories than regular butter. So I know it's like kind of trendy right now, but there's actually, where it originated from, the country where it originated from, there's people are at risk have a higher risk for heart disease, and they think it's because of the ghee. So I wouldn't really go that route. That's all I'm saying. Thanks guys for tuning in. You could also do like whipped butter. Whipped butter is going to be, like I said, simple ingredients like cream and salt, but because the whipped process is basically just going to have like less of that, less calories and less saturated fat per ounce or per serving, if that's something that you care about. Now, we know that when we take away butter, they created margarine, and I'm sure you've all heard of that, right? So margarine was created because butter, there was like this whole big fear, saturated fat's not good for us. So now we need to have an alternative. We used to think cholesterol in food raised cholesterol in the body, but that's not actually true. Usually it's lack of dietary fiber, simple sugars, poor dietary habits, excessive fat in the body, not exercising enough. That's how our cholesterol is going to get raised. It's not cholesterol in food that raises cholesterol. Well, back in the day, when science, you have to remember, nutrition is a science. We're always growing. We're always learning. And I know it's confusing and there's like a ton of misinformation out there, but there's also, it's not always misinformation. Sometimes we just don't know. Do people give recommendations before the science is clear? Absolutely. Should they do that? No. But at the same time, science is forever evolving, and so what we once thought was good for us might not be good for us now. Also, our food's changing, so I know it can get frustrating, but you just have to remember that you just got to stay on top of the science or talk with a nutrition professional who can guide you in the right direction. So we used to believe that saturated fat and things high in cholesterol raise cholesterol in the body, so they took butter and they created margarine. Well, to have margarine, it's a processed food, and it's through a hydrogenation process, and partially hydrogenated oils create trans fat. And trans fat is directly linked to heart disease. Even 0.05 grams of trans fat has been associated with impaired blood vessels and higher risks of cholesterol. Now, margarine, you'll see some of it will, if you read the ingredients, it might say 0 grams trans fat because it might have 0.4. And if you were to round that down, it would be 0. So it can claim that it has 0 grams trans fat. So I don't want you to go by the nutrition facts label. I want you to go by the ingredients and make sure that you do not see hydrogenated oils. Because over the years, since we've learned that trans fat aren't good for us, the manufacturers who are making margarine change their hydrogenation process in a way that it doesn't have as many trans fats or even any, but it's really hard to tell. So I know this is like annoying, but you have to, read the label, read the ingredients, and triple check, okay? Yeah, so butter, margarine, so far I'm like a little bit weighing more towards the butter, but sorry, okay. How about Smart Balance Buttery Spread? It's considered margarine where it's 64% vegetable oils and 400 omega-3s. Is that the one, non-dairy one? Yeah, so margarine, I believe, is non-dairy as well because they're not using animal products. I could get that wrong. I think, yeah. And then the buttery spreads, it's not partially hydrogenated, but it's still canola. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm getting into now. So that's my next topic, are like kind of like your olive oil blends or spreads, or like your plant-based blends or alternatives. There's a ton of them. Like there's so many of them. And the blends are usually fine because the good part about them is they do have omega-3s, which I talked about with the grass-fed butter, right? There's a little bit more omega-3s. Those olive oil blends definitely have omega-3s. But they usually also have like a ton of other stuff and fillers. Like I said earlier, I don't think that's a big deal. Like I don't think it's making or breaking someone's diet because it's a teaspoon and at least they're getting some more omega-3s, which we know we don't get enough of in the diet. Americans tend to get, the Western diet, we tend to get plenty of saturated fat, omega-6s. We tend to lack omega-3s, so if you don't really have things like olive oil and you don't eat things like nuts and seeds and healthy fats like avocado, guacamole, then switching from butter to one of the soft spreads or the olive oil blends, I think is a good option, especially too if you have high cholesterol or a history of high cholesterol in your family. Although there's still an ongoing debate right now about saturated fat in the diet, I still believe that making a swap like that isn't going to hurt you, and if anything, it's only going to help you. Especially you also have to look at the rest of your food. Are you eating fried food? Are you eating fatty meats, animal products that have a ton of saturated fat already? Like I know that even though some dietitians will argue that saturated fat's not bad, we still want to be mindful of how much we're taking in, and we still don't want to forget about the fact that some other alternatives could be a better option. So once again, it's your own individualized need and what you're looking for, and I'm just kind of giving you the facts and behind each different option out there. Hey, Daniela, thank you. Okay, so we did the olive oil bread. Now, avocado butter. Maybe actually I'm going to save avocado butter for my last one, so I give you guys the recipe and talk about my experience on Dr. Oz. I'll save it for the end. Well, I know I'm kind of jumping right now. Okay, so we talked about butter, we talked about margarine, the olive oil blends or the plant-based blends. Those are good because of the heart-healthy fats. Now, I have on my list, like, I wanted to talk about, like, as you guys know, I made avocado butter on the Dr. Oz show, and it's definitely something that I advocate. The downside to avocado butter is you have to make it, and not a lot of places sell it. I think Costco at one point was selling it. And I don't think they're selling it anymore. You can find like avocado-based oil spreads and blends similar to the ones I was just talking about, but they might have those fillers. So you would have to make it fresh. If you are going to make it fresh, then leave the pit in to help keep it from browning. It's very similar to how you would make guacamole, except you're not adding like chunks of tomato and chunks of onion. You know, you're using granulated onion and granulated garlic powder and like I said, I'm going to give you the recipe at the end. The reason why I made a case for avocado butter, and it's why, you know, it was recommended as the best butter, is because avocados have monounsaturated fats, heart-healthy fats that support the heart. Avocados also have antioxidants, dietary fiber, vitamin C, vitamin E. There's just so many other benefits to it. So yes, you know, some of the grass-fed butter or some of the plant-based spreads have omega-3s. Awesome, great. Do we need more of them? 100%. But some of us might also need more fiber, more vitamin E. Maybe it helps us feel fuller for longer. Yeah, so those fats that we just talked about, because they don't have that dietary fiber, it might not make you feel full. And maybe you want to get your fats in like a food form. I know I prefer that because I love food. I don't like, yes, olive oil, yes, it's like helping my heart. Yes, that's great, but it doesn't really fill me up. With that being said, though, I know this doesn't seem like a traditional way to put on a spread on your bread, but you know, it's really common, you know, thinking about like in European countries, they'll do like olive oil mixed like a dip with like red chili pepper and like garlic powder and like a little salt and pepper, and they dip their bread in the olive oil, and that is fine too. So I know it's not like a spread you can buy and purchase, but if you wanted to make like an olive oil kind of dip and spread that on your bread, you totally could, and it's delicious. All right. And so then there's nut butters and things like hummus. Those can be spreads as well. When it comes to nut butters, the same thing you want to look for. You want to make sure you read the ingredients, that you don't get things that are partially hydrogenated. Some nut butters also add a ton of sugar. Not a ton, but they add sugar. You don't need sugar. The ingredients should just be whatever the nut is. So if it's peanuts and salt, or almonds and salt, or you can get unsalted. You know, nut butters are great because they're going to have, like I said, more fiber, a little bit of protein, no fillers if you get the ones that are natural. The only thing about nut butters that are natural is the oils separate because it's not doing that hydrogenation process. So you're going to have to really mix it, and the texture and consistency might not be what you're used to. And it's not going to taste as sweet because they don't add sugar to the natural one. So, no, I really should read the China study, but I haven't read it yet. But I was almost bought it on audio. I think I need to listen to it on audio. I know I'm well aware of it, but I have not read it yet, and I know that I should. So I will thank you for the motivation, because I'm going to do that. Listen, I don't read, I read, but something like the China study, it's a large book, so I'm going to get it on audio. It'll be faster that way. Okay. For those of you who've stayed to the end, you are awesome. So now you get my recipe for avocado butter. All right. So you need 1 ripe avocado, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, a half a teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of granulated onion, a quarter teaspoon of granulated garlic, 1 teaspoon of lime juice. And you're going to put that in a blender. You're going to mix it up really good, and then you're going to save the pit and put it inside, and that should give you about 4 servings. And it's fresh, it's delicious, nutritious. It's good. Yes, definitely. Thank you. Okay, so pretty much I just want to recap what we went over, and then I'll leave room for any more questions. So basically, I talked about all the different butters, different spreads, different things you can put on your bread, in your sandwiches, on your rice cakes if you don't eat bread, whatever it is. And it's really up to you. You know, if you have high cholesterol in your diet, if you have high cholesterol in your history, or you went to the doctor and you were told to watch your cholesterol, or you have high cholesterol, I definitely would think about doing more of like the plant-based spreads, or doing things like nut butters and avocado, or hummus. You know, hummus is, well, I didn't really talk about it, but, you know, it comes from the chickpea, which is a bean, which is high fiber, high protein. So try to, think about it that way. Instead of using butter, maybe use less butter or switch to olive oil with your cooking, even though we're talking about spreads on your breads, but just in general, but if for the most part, your diet, you prefer to have foods with a short ingredient list, and overall your diet's pretty lean, you don't eat a lot of fried foods and, processed stuff, and you want to keep it clean, then using regular butter or I probably would tell you to do grass-fed butter instead of regular butter, just for a little bit of the omega-3s. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't be using a ton of it. It's really just to flavor your food or to put a little spread on there. But I really do believe that we'd be missing the opportunity for more nutrition if we don't use things like avocado butter and nut butters and hummus. I think we could all benefit from that. But once again, look at your diet and see what you're missing as a whole. And, modify based off your personal wants and needs, okay? So for those of you who stay to the end, another bonus, you got my avocado recipe. I offer a free 15-minute discovery call for those who are considering working with me one-on-one. If you feel like you would benefit from individualized nutrition care and you're interested in working with me, I am a little bit selective of who I work with. I just want to make sure that we're a good fit. That's all. So I don't want to waste anyone's time, but I do offer that free 15-minute session. So send me an email to tipswithtoni@gmail.com with the word avocado butter as your little okay, I know that you watched the end. And we'll set up that 15-minute call to see if we'd be a good fit to work together. All right. I'm going to read the comments and answer some questions. Okay. So long, okay, that. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks, Melissa. Thank you, JC. You guys are awesome. I love you guys. I will be back on next week, Tuesday, May 22nd, I believe, right? I'm looking at my calendar. And I'm going to talk about secrets to a better barbecue, because I know Memorial Day is coming up. So I'm going to give you ideas on how to get through not just Memorial Day, but Memorial Day weekend, because I know it could be like party after party, and I want to make sure that you're making healthy choices. You can have some fun, but I want to give you tips and tricks on how to, not hate yourself come Tuesday morning and feel like you got through it okay, if you're cool with that. Are there any other questions or comments? I'll stay on for another minute or so. If I don't hear or see anything, then I'm just gonna sign off. All right, so that is it. Thank you so much oh my gosh, you know what it is on Facebook? For whatever reason, I can't see the comments sometimes. I think my hard drive is broken on my laptop and it's affecting all of my things. But all right, that's it for tonight. I will see you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we're talking about how to have a healthier barbecue next week. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great, great week. Bye.